Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. I'm thrilled to see you all again. I hope each of you is having a wonderful day or evening, wherever you are. Let's explore some fascinating stories and rich emotions together in this video. Lucia, are you here again? You don't have veto power. A daughter-in-law is still a daughter-in-law, even if her husband is gone. You are my slave for life. I will use you well. My mother-in-law laughed high when she said this. Apparently, she's misunderstanding something. So I decided to tell her. My name is Lily. I'm a 30-year-old housewife. My husband James and I have been married for 3 years. We used to be seniors and juniors in our company, and my husband was 2 years older than me. He worked very hard to teach me his job as a trainer, and I became more and more attracted to him. After that, my days were soaked in work for a while that I could not devote much time to romance. But after 3 years had passed since I joined the company, he and I started working on a project together, and we quickly grew closer. During and after the project, we started going out for drinks after work together, and then we started to go out on weekends as well, and that was the start of our relationship. 2 years after we started dating, he proposed to me, and we got married. Upon our marriage, I retired from my job and became a full-time housewife. My husband was a successful businessman and had already become a section manager with a high salary, and I quit my job because I wanted to experience being a full-time housewife for once. We were very happy as newlyweds, and I enjoyed the time I spent cooking for my husband. My husband always eats my cooking with a smile on his face and says it is delicious, which makes it worthwhile. I also prepared his lunchbox every day, and he shows me his empty lunchbox saying how delicious it was. My husband was so adorable that I put all my effort into cooking for him every day. On our days off, we would go for drives, enjoy our dates, and spend really happy days together. But even such a happy married life has its problems, and for me, it was my mother-in-law. Lily, why don't you come to visit me? Normally, if you're a housewife, you would show up at your husband's parents' house every day to do housework, wouldn't you? I've never heard of such a thing before. Sorry, but Lucia, are you still in good health, aren't you? I have my hands full doing the daily chores at our own house, so it is difficult for me to show up at your place every day. When I said this, Lucia glared at me. Are you trying to talk back to me, even though you are my daughter-in-law? What kind of upbringing have you received from your parents? I was offended by her words. I don't think my parents had anything to do with it. In the first place, Lucia, you suddenly came to our house without any appointment like this just now. I don't think that's a very sensible thing to do. What kind of upbringing did you have? I'm actually a pretty strong-willed person, so whenever my mother-in-law said something to me, I would talk back like this. What a cocky daughter-in-law you are. I can't believe someone like you married James. We are married, even if you don't believe us. I say this and you say that. That's enough. I'm leaving. I didn't invite you, so please feel free to leave. My mother-in-law left, looking frustrated because I was so firm in my retort. But one day, my mother-in-law did something terrible to bring me down. It was one New Year's Day when I was at my parents-in-law's house and there was a gathering of relatives. My mother-in-law asked me to help her prepare the food for the feast with her. Lily, I want you to make the first thing you serve everyone. Okay. I was told to do so and I prepared a carpaccio for the number of people that would go well with wine. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law prepared the main course and other dishes. I had finished the carpaccio and wanted to help her prepare the other dishes, but she said, all we have to do now is to serve the food we bought or got delivered, so please help Connor. She kicked me out of the kitchen. I had imagined that my mother-in-law would have me do a lot of cooking while she looked down on me, but I was surprised to find that I was not burdened with as much work as I had expected. After that, my father-in-law, my husband, and I cleaned up the house, prepared the table, and waited for the relatives to arrive. When everyone had arrived, I set the table with enough alcohol for the number of people under my mother-in-law's direction. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law served the carpaccio I had prepared. Please have this one first. This one was made by my daughter-in-law Lily. My mother-in-law said so, and the relatives were like, thank you, and tried some. But the next moment, they started talking like, it's too spicy, What the heck is this? It's spicy. Huh? I didn't know what happened, but all my relatives were saying it was spicy and looked not well. That can't be true, I thought. Then I took a bite of my carpaccio and found that it was very spicy, just as my relatives said. It tasted as if Tabasco had been poured on it. I hadn't seasoned it in any way, so the culprit was my mother-in-law. When I looked at my mother-in-law, she was smiling at me. This tastes too pungent for old people like us. Sorry, Lily, can you take it away, please? One by one, the relatives put down their carpaccio and guzzled their beer to get rid of the spiciness. I'm sorry my daughter-in-law seems to have screwed this up. She's not very good at cooking. My mother-in-law says to the relatives with a victorious look on her face, I'm worried about whether James is getting a proper meal. The relatives look at my husband with bright smiles, but James looks pouty. Lily always cooks very good food. I'm sure this is spicy, but she just happened to fail only this time. The food she usually cooks is really good, so much so that I always come home without going out for a drink. My husband helped me like this, but his relatives were skeptical. Some of them were skeptical that my husband's sense of taste was not right. Even if I had told my mother-in-law had put Tabasco in the dish, it was more likely that my mother-in-law would say that I only tried to blame Lucia, so I had to put up with it as it was done to me. I'm sure that Jane's relatives would have perceived me as a wife who was not a good cook. I left the New Year's gathering feeling very frustrated. My mother-in-law's triumphant face makes me angry, even when I remember it now. Then my mother-in-law came over to my house again during the day and laughed about what happened at New Year's. You really are a terrible cook. Lucia, that was your doing, right? What are you talking about? Do you have any proof that I did anything? There's no proof, but I could definitely taste the peppers. I knew you were a bad cook. It was Tabasco. It was Tabasco? I didn't know that. Oh yes, about 30 drops of Tabasco that I had at home. You just confessed you put it in yourself. Lucia got upset when I said that, but she quickly fought back. Shut up. I did it to humiliate you, but thanks to you, it was a huge success. Everyone now knows that you're a useless wife who can't cook. That sucks. No matter how much she didn't like me, she went to such lengths to make all her relatives eat spicy food. I was totally disgusted with my mother-in-law. I immediately reported this to my husband. My husband was furious and called my mother-in-law. Mom, what are you acting like a child? There is no way you are going to bring our relatives into this and embarrass them just because my wife talked back to you. My husband was so fierce that he confronted my mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law's voice on the phone was trembling. I was trying to give my cocky daughter-in-law a good scolding. Lily didn't do anything wrong. As far as I'm concerned, I think you're rather worse than Lily. Oh no, even you say such things? Please don't do anything to hurt Lily anymore. The next time you come to my house without permission, I will cut off the ties between you and me. Oh right, I got it. So please don't say that. My mother-in-law seems to become anxious because my husband even told her he was going to cut ties with her. And because of that, she no longer comes storming into my house to pick on me. James, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't realize it until this happened. I'm sorry it took me so long to talk to you about it. It was nice to know that my husband was on my side no matter what. From then on, we had a very peaceful and calm day. I didn't realize how much less stressful it would be if my mother-in-law just didn't come to my house. However, while I was spending happy days with my husband again, something very sad happened. My husband had a car accident and lost his life. It was so sudden that I could not catch up with my emotions. I was so sad that I had no memory of the funeral. I could not accept the reality that my husband was gone. It was after 2 months that I finally began to feel at peace. Although I sometimes felt my chest tighten with sadness and loneliness of the loss of my husband, I was still able to go about my daily life. But then, my mother-in-law came back into my life. Hey, Lily. Where have you been wandering around? Lucia, what are you doing here? To my surprise, my mother-in-law was waiting for me in front of my apartment. What were you doing out this late at night? I was working. Work? Have you forgotten about James and are you just going about your daily life? Well, I have to work to earn my living. So you didn't love him after all? Huh? You married James because he's good at work and gives you money. What are you talking about? I love James and am still sad about the loss of my beloved husband. If that were the case, you wouldn't be working just because 2 months have passed. What kind of logic is that? Come on. Shut up. Let me in the house anyway. Why should I let you in my house? You. Are you going to reject your own mother-in-law? That is €1. I didn't want to let my mother-in-law in the house, but I thought that was indeed a terrible idea. So I had no choice but to let her in. There is dust on Jane's picture. I was just about to clean it up when I got home. Don't lie to me like that. You didn't do anything. That's not true. I clean it regularly. I don't believe you. I immediately regretted that I let my mother-in-law in the house. My mother-in-law is constantly abusing me. I'm fed up with her awfulness as usual. I knew you are a terrible cook. Lucia, how long are you going to stay here? I'm your mother-in-law, so you shouldn't mind if I stay longer. No, Buta Euro, don't think that just because James passed away, we're not going to end our relationship. My mother-in-law looked so proud of herself. I will be back again. What did she mean by again? Why does my mother-in-law need to visit me so many times? I was extremely anxious. Even though I was not mentally well yet, the added stress of my mother-in-law was quite hard on me. And sure enough, my mother-in-law came again the next day. Lucia, you came again? You don't have the right to veto anything, so just let me in. I knew I had to protect myself, so I didn't let my mother-in-law in the house. Let me in, you little brat. My mother-in-law kept knocking on the door, but I ignored her. Eventually, the knocking stopped, and she seems to have given up. So now, she started to intercom repeatedly during the day on my days off. Each time, the intercom would ring inside the house, and it was really loud. Moreover, sometimes a courier or someone else would come in, so I had to check who it was every time. Also, when I let the delivery person in, my mother-in-law came inside the apartment with him. And then, saying that I'm her relative, she comes into my room without my permission while I'm signing for the delivery. Hey, Lucia, please don't break into my apartment without permission. It's okay. I'm related to you. Even if my son is gone, my daughter-in-law is still my daughter-in-law. You're my slave for life, and I will give you a job. Saying that, my mother-in-law laughs out loud. But don't you need to take care of Connor? I don't have a problem. If I don't take care of him for a little while, he's about to die anyway. That's terrible. In fact, my father-in-law has been suffering from a limp for about a year now, and is in need of nursing care. I was told that my mother-in-law is taking care of him, but considering the fact that she keeps coming to my house like this, I worry that he's not being taken care of at all. No matter what, I have to stop my mother-in-law from coming to this house again and again, so I thought about if there is anything I can do to stop her. So I decided to ask my lawyer friend. Then, she gave me an advice. That way, I would not have to worry about my mother-in-law following me around. And my mother-in-law came again, without learning her lesson. Lily, here I am again. Let me in and get me some coffee and snacks. My mother-in-law says this over the intercom, grinning at me. I won't let you in the house anymore. I'm already a stranger to you. What are you talking about? I told you before. Even if my son died, my daughter-in-law is still my daughter-in-law, which means we are family. I told my mother-in-law, who is misunderstanding something, a certain fact. I'm sorry, but I'm no longer married to James. No, that's not true. You can't get a divorce.